Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. It's September 6th, Memorial Day. Early September is time where we have to start feeding a lot of colonies. An earlier video showed at one of my yards I've had to take the honey supers off and start feeding it already. And there will be more and more of those yards added to that as the next week goes on, because I'm seeing the honey flow die out in some areas. Now, it's not too late for a honey flow to get started again. But even last year, which was the late honey flow started, it had started by about the 2nd. So I'm not expecting if there isn't a honey flow now, I'm not expecting there to be one before the frost comes, which will end any prospect of honey flow. So in most of my yards, I expect to be feeding them pretty much by the end of this week. So where I can, I want to get a head start and start feeding them up and helping them bulk up for the winter. But I don't want to do it too early, because I don't want to stop them rearing the winter bees that we need to get through the winter. And they'll continue to rear brood right up till about the 3rd week of October. So the last brood, I'm wanting the colonies to be pretty much full of sugar syrup towards the end of September, pretty much completed by the 10th of October or so. Once we get to that time, in most years here in Maine, it's very hard for the bees to cure any further addition of sugar syrup or any nectar they bring in at that stage. And so after that, it's too cold at night. They stop fanning and therefore stop curing the nectar or sugar syrup. And it would go into the winter as too dilute. And if it's too dilute, it can ferment and make the bees sick. Or if they drink it, it means that they'll have to fly on cleansing flights more frequently during the winter, and that can be problematic too. So my targets have everything done by the 10th of October. But I'm going to gradually start increasing sugar syrup feeding in my hives where I've taken the honey supers off. There's some out back that need feeding, while others are still having some honey flow. So those that have taken the honey supers off and they're a bit empty, I'm going to be starting to feed individually where it's appropriate and there's not much competing bees in the area. I might do some open feeding, but generally speaking, I'll be feeding individual hives with individual feeders. When I am feeding, I'll be making it 2-to-1 sugar syrup, or pretty close, between 1.5 and 2-to-1 sugar syrup. That will make it much easier for the bees to concentrate that sugar syrup and make it ready for winter. I'll be using my larger scale sugar mixer here. It has a 3/4 horsepower motor in here. I'll have a quick look. I've done a video on this before, so just a quick look. I've got a 3/4 horsepower motor in there, and the pump will circulate the water, pump it up this pipe and back down here where it circulates, and it will go round in a circle to spin and churn up that sugar syrup and keep the water and sugar mixed until the sugar dissolves. Up here, I'll be able to divert sugar syrup out this line. If I close this valve down, now more sugar syrup will go that way, and if I turn it off altogether, all of the sugar syrup will go that way. That would be a bit of a strain on the pump, so I'll be tending to run it that sort of partly recirculating part going out to the bees, out to the containers when I fill up my 5-gallon jugs to take them away with me. Anyway, what I'll be doing is I'll be putting roughly 15 gallons of hot water, and I now have a tap here. So I've plumbed in the hot water. And now, hey presto, I can start filling my tank up. Once I have my 15 gallons of water in there, I'll be adding roughly 200 pounds of sugar syrup, white granulated sugar. And I don't use anything other than white granulated sugar in my colonies, in my sugar syrup. I don't add stimulants or anything like that. So let's get the sugar out. I've got a stack of it over here. I'll stack it up and we will be ready to make this sugar syrup. Got about 5 gallons in there now. At this stage of the year, I will get through a lot of sugar. I've got a delivery of 1,200 pounds scheduled to arrive tomorrow. By the time we really get moving, I'll be using this really quickly. I'll probably be using that much, more than that much in a week. So we'll start this pumping. Not quite at the 15 gallons yet. I'll get the bags ready. I think we're there. Just to double check, because the circulating of the pump causes a whirlpool effect and lowers the water level on the sides. But yeah, we've got a bit over 15 gallons here, so actually I will add one more. I overshot slightly, so I will add another bag of sugar. The exact ratio, whether it's exactly 2 to 1, a little bit less, a little bit more, doesn't really matter. If I could actually make it a little bit more, that's great for bulking up the hives, but we're just prior to bulking up the hives. I'm looking to make sure we don't have starvation right now, and they're starting to accumulate, and from about next week on, I'm now looking to bulk up the hives. Put enough in there for another bag of sugar. That should do it. There's my sugar store at the moment. Just about, I'll be making another batch this afternoon. So I'll use another 4 or 5 of those bags. And I want to make sure I've got plenty for next week. Heck of a lot faster than doing it on the stove. Of course, it's been a long time since I've did it in the kitchen, but the last few years, what I'd been doing until this time last year when I made this, what I'd been doing before this was doing it in a 5-gallon bucket and using a paint mixer to stir it up, or using a little canoe paddle like this one. Don't know if anybody saw that, but I forgot to turn this off. How stupid was that? So now I've got a whole load of sugar syrup on the floor here. Time to get the mop out and to turn this embarrassing video off. What the heck? One of the things people like about my videos is I show it, mistakes and all. So annoying. Now I don't know exactly what my ratios are. And of course the stuff that's in there is not the right mixture, so I'll pour that in. And I know it'll be close to the right mixture. That's what happens when you get distracted making videos. Thinking about the video and not on what you're doing. Okay, that's the bulk of it. I'll come back and clean that up properly later. So my guess, both by the temperature of what I had there and by the depth, I've overshot in my amount of water. Now, of course, if I had a hydrometer or something like that, and I really knew what I was doing, I could measure things and get the right amount. But as I say, particularly right now, because if I give them slightly dilute sugar syrup right now, I'm not going to really slow much down. So I maybe throw some extra sugar in there just to be sure, and I'll try and make sure it feels and looks right, because the thickness of it I can usually tell roughly what concentration is, but I'll just throw some more sugar in there. I probably won't have overshot by more than a couple of gallons of water, and I've already decided to put that extra bag in. Probably spilt about half a gallon on the floor, less than that, probably a quarter of a gallon. So I haven't lost much, it's just a matter of did I dilute it more than I planned to. That sound of is cavitation. Means the sugar is piling up up on the bottom around the pump. So we'll just clear that up. I can feel it down there, but it's mostly gone now. Because the sugar is floating on the water, I know I'm pretty darn close to 2 to 1. It's pretty thick. Right, all cleaned up now. Filled up to about here with sugar syrup. I've added another 50 pounds, almost 50 pounds to it. We saw that. And so when I want it to come out of this tap, I can turn this on here. And of course, if you don't do it at the right time, it's coming out when you're not thinking about it. So anyway, there's our sugar syrup. Making it nice. Got plenty coming through now. So I can turn this off here. And I can fill up my 5-gallon containers with this. And now I should have the right mixture and not overfilling it all over the floor. What I tend to do is fill them up to about 4.5 gallons or so. I don't like to have them absolutely full. It makes them hard to pour accurately to start with. So I get them up to about 4 and transport them that way. A lot easier to handle as well. A lot easier to handle, a lot lighter weight. Keep that on recirculation. These other ones are already full. Now I'm ready to load them on the truck and take them to the bee yard. So that's how to make sugar syrup and how not to make sugar syrup. So learn by my mistakes. Watch where the sugar syrup's going. Watch which valves are open and which ones are shut. And have a good time doing it. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.